Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, welcome to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we are enjoying taking a tour through Krishna's holy and transcendental pastimes. Here in the live studio, right here in the live studios in Hive, otherwise known as the Haven in Anglo-Saxon, in southeast England, just on the edge of the English Channel. We hope you're all well and safe and happy in this crazy time we're going through, and it's going to get crazier. Srila Prabhupada explained to us that this would happen, that the earth would polarize, and eventually it would come between devotees and demons, eventually. We don't know how long that will take. It may take generations, but whatever. People who are unfavorable will be more unfavorable, and people who are favorable become more favorable. And eventually, he said, millions of people will come for shelter to the devotees, to his movement, to his society. So we better get ready. And this is the way to get ready, is to become attached to hearing and chanting about Krishna, and then attracted to Krishna personally, and eventually to fall in love with Krishna. That is what is going to spread Krishna consciousness and fulfill the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya, that this movement will spread to every town and village. So, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Mahima Stotra, from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, text 412 through 416. 5 beautiful verses glorifying the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is contained in a book that is glorifying Krishna's pastimes, especially in Vrindavan. But it's Krishna Lila Stava, so it's all of Krishna's pastimes, by Srila Sanatana Goswami. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho, Kalidwandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Man Nistadaka Madbhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin, Atini Chochata Kada, Hanamun Chagadachin Mam, Premna Rit Kantayokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I told you this was a long chapter. Maybe you already knew. But we're on part 7, chapter 87 of the Krishna book, which is a summary study of the 10th canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The prayers of the personified Vedas, where the highest authorities in the universe are laying it out, the philosophy, the basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And one can't help but notice how many of the points that are being made in this chapter Srila Prabhupada used again and again and again in preaching to us in his attempt to fix us up in Krishna consciousness. And as his second pranam mantra states, and he wrote it himself, because there was no one who could have written it for him. So he wrote it himself, and he said, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. He came to deliver the Western world from the pernicious effects of Mayavad and of Mayavad philosophy in the forms of Nirvishesha and Shunyavadi. So, here we are, chapter 87. We're beginning from the paragraph which begins, the Mayavadi philosophers. The Mayavadi philosophers sometimes put forward the argument of the snake and the rope. In the dark of evening, a curled up rope is sometimes, due to ignorance, taken for a snake. But mistaking the rope for a snake does not mean that the rope or the snake is false. And therefore this example, used by the Mayavadis to illustrate the falsity of the material world, is not valid. When a thing is taken as fact, but actually has no existence at all, it is called false. But if something is mistaken for something else that exists, that does not mean it is false. The Vaishnava philosophers use a very appropriate example, comparing this material world to an earthen pot. When we see an earthen pot, it does not at once disappear and turn into something else. It may be temporary, but the earthen pot is taken into use for bringing water, and we continue to see it as an earthen pot. Therefore, although the earthen pot is temporary and different from the original earth, we cannot say that it is false. We should therefore conclude that the earthen pot and the entire earth are both truths, because one is a product of the other. We can understand from the Bhagavad Gita that after the dissolution of this cosmic manifestation, the material energy enters into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever existing with its varied energies. Because the material creation is an emanation from Him, we cannot say that this cosmic manifestation is a product of something void. Krishna is not void. Whenever we speak of Krishna, he is present with his form, qualities, name, entourage, and paraphernalia. Therefore, Krishna is not impersonal. The original cause of everything is neither void nor impersonal, but is the Supreme Person. Demons may say that this material creation is anishvara, without a controller or God, but such arguments ultimately cannot stand. The example given by the Mayavadi philosophers that inanimate matter, like nails and hair, come from the living body, is not a very sound argument. Nails and hair are undoubtedly inanimate, but they come not from the animate living being, but from the inanimate material body. Similarly, the argument that the scorpion comes from cow dung, meaning that a living entity comes from matter, is also unsound. The scorpion, which comes out of the cow dung, is certainly a living entity, but the living entity does not come out of the cow dung. Only the living entity's material body, or the body of the scorpion, comes out of the cow dung. The sparks of the living entities, as we understand from the Bhagavad Gita, are injected into material nature, and then they come out. The body of the living entity, in different forms, is supplied by material nature, but the living entity himself is supplied by the Supreme Lord. The father and mother give the body necessary for the living entity under certain conditions. The living entity transmigrates from one body to another according to his different desires, which in the subtle form of intelligence, mind and false ego, accompany him from body to body. By superior arrangement, a living entity is put into the womb of a certain type of material body, and then he develops a similar body. Therefore, the spirit soul is not produced from matter. It takes on a particular type of body under superior arrangement. According to our present experience, this material world is a combination of matter and spirit. The spirit is moving the matter. The spirit soul, the living entity, and matter are different energies of the Supreme Lord. And since both the energies are products of the Supreme Eternal or the Supreme Truth, they are factual, not false. Because the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme, he exists eternally. Therefore, for him, there cannot be any question of birth or death. So-called birth and death occur because of the material body. The Vedic version, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, means that since both the energies have emanated from the Supreme Brahman, everything we experience is non-different from Brahman. There are many arguments about the existence of this material world, but the Vaishnava philosophical conclusion is the best. The example of an earthen pot is very suitable. The form of the earthen pot may be temporary, but it has a specific purpose. The purpose of the earthen pot is to carry water from one place to another. Similarly, this material body, although temporary, has a special use. The living entity is given a chance from the beginning of creation to evolve different kinds of material bodies according to the reserved desires he has accumulated from time immemorial. The human form of body is a special chance in which the developed form of consciousness can be utilized. Sometimes the Mayavadi philosophers put forward the argument that if this material world is truth, then why are the householders advised to give up their connection with this material world and take sannyas? But the Vaishnava philosophers' view of sannyas is not that because the world is false, one must therefore give up material activities. The purpose of Vaishnava sannyas is to utilize things as they are intended to be utilized. Srila Rupa Goswami has given Transcendentalists two formulas for dealing with this material world. When a Vaishnava renounces the materialistic way of life and takes to sannyas, it is not on the conception of the falsity of the material world, but to devote himself fully to engaging everything in the service of the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore gives this formula. One should be unattached to the material world, because material attachment is meaningless. The entire material world, the entire cosmic manifestation belongs to God, Krishna. Therefore, everything should be utilized for Krishna, and the devotee should remain unattached to material things. This is the purpose of Vaishnava sannyas. A materialist sticks to the world for sense gratification, but a Vaishnava sannyasi, although not accepting anything for his personal sense gratification, knows the art of utilizing everything for the service of the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore criticized the Mayavadi sannyasis with his second formula. Because the Mayavadis do not know that everything has a utilization for the service of the Lord, they take the world to be false and falsely think they are liberated from the contamination of the material world. Since everything is an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Lord, the expansions are as real as the Lord is. That the cosmic world is only temporarily manifested does not mean that it is false, or that the source of its manifestation is false. Since the source of its manifestation is truth, the manifestation is also truth. But one must know how to utilize it. The example of the earthen pot may be cited again. The earthen pot, produced from the whole earth, is temporary, but when used for a proper purpose, the earthen pot is not false. The Vaishnava philosophers know how to utilize the temporary construction of this material world, just as a sane man knows how to utilize the temporary construction of the earthen pot. When the earthen pot is used for a wrong purpose, that is false. Similarly, the human body or the material world, when used for sense gratification, is false. But if the human body and the material creation are used for the service of the Supreme Lord, their activities are never false. It is therefore confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that even slightly using the body and the material world for the service of the Lord can deliver a person from the gravest danger. When properly utilized, neither the superior nor inferior energies emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead are false. As far as fruitive activities are concerned, they are mainly based on the platform of sense gratification. Therefore, an advanced Krishna conscious person does not take to them. The result of fruitive activities can elevate one to the higher planetary systems, but as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, foolish persons, after exhausting the results of their pious activities in the heavenly kingdom, come back again to this lower planetary system, and then again try to go to the higher planetary systems. Their only profit is to take the trouble of going and coming back. Just as at present, many material scientists are spoiling their time by trying to go to the moon, planet, and then come back. Their only profit is to take the trouble of going and coming back, just as at present, many material scientists are spoiling their time by trying to go to the moon planet and again coming back. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are described by the Vedas personified as Andha Parampara, or blind followers of the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Although such ceremonies are certainly mentioned in the Vedas, they are not meant for the intelligent class of men. Men who are too much attached to material enjoyment are captivated by the prospect of being elevated to the higher planetary system, and so they take to such ritualistic activities. But persons who are intelligent, who have taken shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to see things as they are, do not take to fruitive activities, but engage themselves in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. Persons who are not devotees take to the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies for materialistic reasons, and then they are bewildered. A vivid example may be given. An intelligent person possessing $1 million in currency notes does not hold the money without using it, even though he knows perfectly well that the currency notes in themselves are nothing but paper. When one has $1 million in currency notes, he is actually holding only a bunch of papers, a huge bunch of papers. But if he utilizes it for a purpose, then he benefits. Similarly, although this material world may be false, just like the paper, it has a proper beneficial utilization, because the currency notes, although paper, are issued by the government, they have full value. Similarly, this material world may be false or temporary, but because it is an emanation from the Supreme Lord, it has its full value. The Vaishnava philosophers acknowledge the full value of this material world and know how to utilize it properly. Whereas the Mayavadi philosophers fail to do so, just as those who mistake a currency note for ordinary paper discard it and cannot utilize the money. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore declares that if one rejects the material world as false, not considering the importance of this material world as a means to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such renunciation has very little value. A person who knows the intrinsic value of this material world for the service of the Lord, who is not attached to the material world, and who renounces the material world by not accepting it for sense gratification, is situated in real renunciation. This material world is an expansion of the material energy of the Lord. Therefore it is real. It is not false, as sometimes concluded from the example of the snake and the rope. The personified Vedas continued. The cosmic manifestation, because of the flickering nature of its impermanent existence, appears to less intelligent men to be false. The Mayavadi philosophers take advantage of the flickering nature of this cosmic manifestation to try to prove their thesis that this world is false. According to the Vedic version, before the creation, this world had no existence, and after dissolution, the world will no longer be manifested. Voidists also take advantage of this Vedic version and conclude that the cause of this material world is void. But the Vedic injunctions do not say that it is void. The Vedic injunctions define the source of creation and dissolution as yato va imani bhutani jayante, he from whom this cosmic manifestation has emanated, and in whom, after annihilation, everything will merge. The same is explained in the Vedanta Sutra and in the first verse of the first chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by the words Janmad Yasya Yataha, he from whom all things emanate. All these Vedic injunctions indicate that the cosmic manifestation is due to the supreme absolute personality of Godhead, and that when it is dissolved, it merges into Him. The same principle is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The cosmic manifestation comes into existence and again dissolves, and after dissolution, it merges into the existence of the Supreme Lord. This statement definitely confirms that the particular energy known as Bahir Anga Maya, or the external energy, although of flickering nature, is the energy of the Supreme Lord, and as such it cannot be false. It simply appears false. The Mayavadi philosophers conclude that because the material nature has no existence in the beginning and is non-existent after dissolution, it is false. But by the example of the earthen pots and dishes, the Vedic version is presented. Although the existence of the particular byproducts of the Absolute Truth is temporary, the energy of the Supreme Lord is permanent. The earthen pot or water jug may be broken or transformed into another shape, such as that of a dish or bowl, but the ingredient or the material basis, namely the earth, continues to be the same. The basic principle of the cosmic manifestation is always the same. Brahman, or the Absolute Truth, Therefore, the Mayavadi philosopher's theory that it is false is certainly only a mental concoction. That the cosmic manifestation is flickering and temporary does not mean that it is false. The definition of falsity is that which never had any existence, but which exists only in name. For instance, the eggs of a horse, or the horn of a rabbit, or the flower in the sky, are phenomena which exist only in name. There are no horse's eggs, there is no rabbit's horn, and there are no flowers growing in the sky. There are many things which exist in name or imagination, but actually have no factual manifestation. Such things may be called false, but the Vaishnava cannot take this material world to be false, simply because of its temporary nature. It's manifesting and again dissolving. The personified Vedas continued by saying that the Supersoul and the individual soul, or Paramatma and Jivatma, cannot be equal in any circumstance, although both of them sit within the same body, like two birds sitting in the same tree. One is simply a witness. The bird is the Paramatma. As declared in the Vedas, these two birds, although sitting as friends, are not equal. One is simply a witness. This bird is the Paramatma, or Supersoul, and the other bird is eating the fruit of the tree. That is the Jivatma. When there is a cosmic manifestation, the Jivatma, or the individual soul, appears in the creation in different forms, according to his previous fruitive activities. And due to his long forgetfulness of real existence, he identifies himself with a particular form awarded to him by the laws of material nature. After assuming a material form, he is subjected to the three material modes of nature and acts accordingly to continue his existence in the material world. While he is enwrapped in such ignorance, his natural opulences become almost extinct. The opulences of the Supersoul, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are not diminished, although he appears within this material world. He maintains all opulences and perfections in full, while keeping himself apart from all the tribulations of this material world. The conditioned soul becomes enwrapped in the material world, whereas the Supersoul, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, leaves it without being affected, just as a snake sheds its skin. The distinction between the Supersoul and the conditioned individual soul is that the Supersoul, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintains his natural opulences, known as Shad Aishvarya, Ashta Siddhi, and Ashta Guna. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the Mayavadi philosophers forget the fact that Krishna is always full of 6 opulences, 8 transcendental qualities, and 8 kinds of perfection. No one is greater than or equal to Krishna in these 6 opulences. The first of Krishna's 8 transcendental qualities is that he is always untouched by the contamination of material existence. This is mentioned in the Ishopanishad, Apapa Vidam. Just as the sun is never polluted by any contamination, the Supreme Lord is never polluted by any sinful activity. Although Krishna's actions may sometimes seem impious, he is never polluted by such actions. The second transcendental quality is that Krishna never dies. In the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, he informs Arjuna that both he and Arjuna had many appearances in this material world, but that he alone remembers all such activities, past, present, and future. This means that he never dies. Forgetfulness is due to death. As we die, we change our bodies and forget. Krishna, however, is never forgetful. He can remember everything that has happened in the past. Otherwise, how could he remember that he first taught the yoga system of the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, Vivaswan? Therefore, he never dies. Nor does he ever become an old man. Although Krishna was a great-grandfather when he appeared on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he did not appear like an old man. Krishna cannot be polluted by any sinful activity. Krishna never dies. Krishna never becomes old. Krishna is never subject to lamentation. Krishna is never hungry, and he is never thirsty. Whatever he desires is perfectly lawful, and whatever he decides cannot be changed by anyone. These are the 8 transcendental qualities of Krishna. Besides that, Krishna is known as Yogeshwar. He has all the opulences or facilities of mystic powers, such as Anima, Siddhi, the power to become smaller than the smallest. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that Krishna has entered even within the atom, Andantarasta Paramanu Chayandarastam. Similarly, Krishna, as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, is within the gigantic universe, and he is lying in the causal ocean as Mahavishnu, in a body so gigantic that when he exhales, millions and trillions of universes emanate from his body. This is called Mahima Siddhi. Krishna also has the perfection of Laghima. He can become the lightest. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that it is because Krishna enters within this universe and within the atoms that all the planets are floating in the air. That is the explanation of weightlessness. Krishna also has the perfection of prapti. He can get whatever he likes. Similarly, he has the facility of Ishita, controlling power. He is called the Supreme Controller, Parameshwara. In addition, Krishna can bring anyone under his influence. This is called Vashita. In this way, Krishna is endowed with all opulences, transcendental qualities, and mystic powers. No ordinary living being can compare to him. Therefore, the Mayavadi's theory that the supersoul and the individual soul are equal is only a misconception. The conclusion is, therefore, that Krishna is worshipable and that all other living entities are simply his servants. This understanding is called self-realization. Any other realization of oneself beyond this relationship of eternal servitorship to Krishna is impelled by Maya. It is said that the last snare of Maya is her dictation to the living entity to try to become equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosopher claims to be equal to God, but he cannot reply to the question of why he has fallen into material entanglement. If he is the Supreme God, then how is it that he has been overtaken by impious activities and thereby subjected to the tribulations of the law of karma? When the Mayavadis are asked about this, they cannot properly answer. The speculation that one is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is another symptom of sinful life. One cannot take to Krishna consciousness unless one is completely freed from all sinful activities. The very fact that the Mayavadi claims to be one with the Supreme Lord means that he is not yet freed from the reactions of sinful activities. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam says that such persons are avishuddha buddhiyaha, which means that because they falsely think themselves liberated and at the same time think themselves equal with the absolute truth, their intelligence is not purified. The personified Vedas said that if the yogis and the jnanis do not free themselves from sinful desires, then their particular process of self-realization will never be successful. Dear Lord, the personified Vedas continued, if saintly persons do not take care to eradicate completely the roots of sinful desires, they cannot experience the Supersoul, although he is sitting side by side with the individual soul. Samadhi, or meditation, means that one has to find the Supersoul within himself. One who is not free from sinful reactions cannot see the Supersoul. If a person has a jeweled locket in his necklace but forgets the jewel, it is almost as though he does not possess it. Similarly, if an individual soul meditates but does not actually perceive the presence of the Supersoul within himself, his meditation is useless. Persons who have taken to the path of self-realization must therefore be very careful to avoid contamination by the influence of Maya. Srila Rupa Goswami says that a devotee should be completely free from all sorts of material desires. A devotee should not be affected by the results of karma and jnana. One has to simply understand Krishna and carry out his orders, his desires. That is the pure devotional stage. The personified Vedas continued. Mystic yogis who still have contaminated desires for sense gratification are never successful in their attempt, nor can they realize the Supersoul within the individual self. As such, the so-called yogis and jnanis who are simply wasting their time in different types of sense gratification, either by mental speculation or by exhibition of limited mystic powers, will never be liberated from conditioned life and will continue to go through repeated births and deaths. For such persons, both this life and the next life are sources of tribulation. Such sinful persons are already suffering tribulation in this life, and because they are not perfect in self-realization, they will be plagued with further tribulation in the next life. Despite all endeavors to attain perfection, such yogis contaminated by desires for sense gratification will continue to suffer in this life and the next. And that brings us almost to 8 o'clock. Hare Krishna. Another little dose of reality. Reality check time. This chapter checks whether or not we are actually situated in knowledge or not, and directs us to real knowledge, just in case we aren't. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop the readings there for tonight. It's 7:59, almost 8 o'clock. We will start tomorrow again. Part 8. What a chapter, huh? We sometimes do two chapters in one day.
First is from Brian Phillips.
Hare Krishna Bhakta Brian.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla.
Jai, glories to His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda.
From Devadarana.
Devadarana, Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jai, all glories to Prabhupada.
I am well, and I pray that you are blessed with good health and longevity.
Thank you very much. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. We need all of that help we can get to be able to finish the recordings of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and Krishna book, and the Vyāsadeva. Whew! That's going to take a long time.
And from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Haribol Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Glories to Prabhupada.
And your daily reading, sheltered and surrounded service of Śrīla Prabhupāda's books.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to you, Maharaj, and all alliance members.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna Katha.
Hare Krishna.
From Bhakti Noel.
Hare Krishna Bhakti Noel. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to hear this nectar each day, connecting our spirit souls to Sri Krishna through the transcendental Vedic texts. Divine mercy. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
All glory to His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda.
From Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Sudevi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jai.
And from Rati Manjari.
Haribol Rati.
Jai Guru Maharaj, eager to hear you once again.
Thank you. Not hearing from me, you're hearing from Prabhupada.
And from Daityari Haridas.
Haribol Dai Haridas.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Haribol.
Nice hearing in so many ways and analogies how everything that is simply an emanation of Krishna's energy. Everything that is simply an emanation of Krishna's energy, and it's just a question of understanding how to use those energies in His service.
Exactly. That is the key. That is the secret of success. key to the door to the spiritual world.
And from Anandamurti Devi Dasi,
Hare Krishna Nandamurti.
Dear Guru Maharaj and all the assembled devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jai glories Prabhupada.
I understand that it is important to use this life properly to execute devotional service, and that is the biggest purpose of this life.
The only purpose of this life, not the biggest purpose, is the only purpose of this life.
I am very much fortunate to have the chance to hear these important lessons of life every day.
Jai Haribol. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm doing this intense marathon along with Rasika Shiromani to prove here, and we're finding all kinds of things. It's amazing. You know, it's amazing. When we edit books, even edit sound, it's not easy. It takes a lot of time to make it right, to make it as perfect as possible. So anyway, we're doing that between 4 and 5.5 hours a day, you know, and that takes that much chunk out of my day, which leaves me hardly any room for anything else. So I hope all of you will be patient with me while we go through this exercise. But at the rate we're going now, we're averaging about 4 hours a day of sound, and that means we'll probably finish in about a month, because we also have to do dub-ins. And then the mastering has to be done, and that will take at least a week, maybe more. But I can assure you, unless, I mean, Krishna willing, and unless something happens that we just cannot predict, which is now possible, the way things are going in the world, anything can happen at any time. But we will get this audiobook out during Srila Prabhupada's 125th anniversary of his life on this planet. So please, you bless us so that we can do that. Sri Krishna.
There's something on the way from Rati
Manjari. Okay. One more from Rati Manjari, and then we're leaving.
I think she's still typing it. First she wrote, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, if I may ask a perhaps foolish question. Why is there so much emphasis placed on the point that we battle the Mayavadi conclusion that this world is false? It seems that it is coming back again and again in Srila Prabhupada's books, so it must be really important. Could you please explain?
Because it is the sound of the Mayavadi philosophy is poison. It kills the soul. Even though the soul cannot be killed, it causes the soul to want to commit spiritual suicide. Therefore, it is the most dangerous thing in this material world. It is the most offensive thing to God in this material world. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, when one hears it submissively, his spiritual life is doomed. That's why Prabhupada keeps bringing it up again and again and again. Because, frankly, we are all contaminated with that from having been born at this time on the earth, and especially in the West. And it's really important that we understand just how important that is, so that we will be able to recognize Mayavad philosophy when we hear it, so our minds won't go there and take interest in it and be curious about it, and then we get poisoned. And don't think it can't happen to you or to anyone. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita purport where Prabhupada says that even a Mahabhagavat, by hearing Mayavad philosophy, can fall down. And because the Mayavad philosophy is so rampant, it's almost all pervasive, therefore we are living in very dangerous, swimming in dangerous waters, and we should be careful. And therefore Prabhupada, out of his extreme mercy, is stressing it so much and drilling us so that we won't become misled and drink the poison of impersonal Mayavad philosophy. Hare Krishna.
She says, thank you, dear Guru Maharaj.
My pleasure. It's really my pleasure. Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivedanta, Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hare Bo. And let's come back tomorrow and invite your friends. And I heard Radharaman gave me a prediction that we would finish the Krishna book on Janmashtami. So I can't think of a better thing on Janmashtami to do than to hear the Krishna book. So we'll see if we still can do it. It's only a few days away now. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Same place, same time, same topic. The unlimited, ever-expanding, eternal nectar of the pastimes and philosophy of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See you tomorrow. Haribol.